Now, before I start this video, there's a couple of things I want to point out real quick. While this video is all about talking about tier lists and character positionings and blah, 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 I just want to point out that these are just my opinion. This is just from what I've experienced and all that. So if there's something that you disagree with, just know it's just my point of view. Second of all, this is just for the sake of entertainment. Please take this with a grain of salt. Nothing to be serious about, just here because I just thought, hey, maybe let's just do a quick tier list before the end of the year, you know what I'm saying? Now, if you agree or disagree with my takes or whatever you see on this video, please let me know in the comments. Just make sure you're civil about it. With that being said, let's get to it. So this is gonna be the ranking, as obvious. I'm basing it off of like Pride Win and like the other tier lists they do like the S, A, B, C, D, F and all that. And I did put some characters here just to state the obvious. I will go through each one and describe like the positioning and all that, just to get these ones like out of the way real quick. Physical MC, we all know it. They're pretty weak, but that's okay. They're just a starter character. They're just there to get you at the beginning of the game, carry you as far as they can. Arlen, bro he got no damage. Bro just be healing the enemies, but even with that, let's say even he was pretty strong, he's not even a destruction character. He doesn't even follow his own path. He just does like single targets, and then he requires his ultimate to do actual blast damage. So that's honestly, in my book, that's not really good. Misha, really interesting kit with the skill point consumption management and all that, with like, oh, you get stronger or motivated by the amount of skill point consumptions, but even then it's pretty RNG when it comes to the final blow, aka his ultimate. It's pretty like RNG. Hook is so terrible. Like, same thing with Arling. It's just that at least Arling can do AoE. What is Hook even doing? Yukong, she provides some good buffs, but at the cost of constantly having to manage her stacks of like, oh, it uses this one here and there. Even at E6, it can be of a struggle because all you're doing is just getting one back, and even that is not enough. So you're doing so much work for just some okay-ish buffs. Don't get me wrong, they're pretty good and there's potential, but you're fighting more trying to keep them up rather than actually, you know, buffing or anything outside of that. Like, it's just there's other better units. Bailu, she keeps the team alive. Absolutely, that's something I'm gonna talk about. Sustains, each one with proper investment, proper place and all that, everyone can keep the team alive. But it's just the fact that this character, RNG healing, bounce healing, no cleansing, she has damage mitigation, but it's only getting some of that damage turn into HP. She's not really that good as a healer. That's why I put it down here. Fire Trailblazer, honestly, even with the whole gimmick with Acheron and that one Lycone where they get like burn and they get the stagger and stuff like that, even with that, it's still at the cost of like, you know, them. It's kind of like how Fu Xuan, where you're just slowing down the timer of your, you know, your fate. That's what they're doing. They're just getting some damage reduction, but you know, they're just slowing down their doom, you know, them dying, all that. And even then, shielding everybody is not good. Their shields are very squishy. Like, they can easily be taken out even by other teams, or even by like the Trailblazer themselves. They can even get that shield out and just a tap. So really, it's not really worth it. Yang Sheng, this man gets a ton of buffs from his kit, but even with all that, his multipliers, in my opinion, are very, very low. He requires a lot of investment, a lot of play, a lot of care and like attention. You know, not him getting like hit for the soul steal. He can still like, you know, deliver. He can still like do all that stuff, but at the cost of you having to just constantly just focusing your attention on like outside factors, it's just not good, honestly. Dong, he's interesting. He has like a really interesting like play of like, you know, with the speed, that's damage increase, wind penetration. There's like some really wacky factors you're gonna play into him. Like, for example, he has to be target to get that wind resistance. If you want to deal damage, they gotta be slowed. There's some plays like with Well, for example, it can be a little bit easier. He can go a couple times, but again, it's just a little bit too little damage. Granted, he's a 4-star. He's there to also carry you through at the beginning of the game, so it is what it is. Same thing with March. She's just there for the beginning of the game. Even with Eidolons, where you can heal, you can cleanse and all that, it's still not enough. You know, like maybe for like simulated and all that, she's like top tippity top, like right here, like T5, T0, stuff like that. But this tier list is more like overall characters. So like even March as a whole, like I'm the biggest March simp out there, you know what I'm saying? So like even I gotta like come to my terms to say, hey man, this character, even to sustain, she all right. Again, she's also a starter character, so it is what it is. Natasha, same thing, but that's only because like she's just very basic. Essentially, she's very basic. There's nothing to it. Same thing, starter character, or that's a character you get early on, like in your early journey of the game. Some of y'all might be thinking, why is Herta not here? And that's because Herta, in my opinion, she goes up here, T3, because, you know, she's like the queen of pure fiction, you know, up here and all that. And she's actually one of the best units in pure fiction, absolutely. Apocalyptic Shadow is a little bit difficult because you can get some summons, but at the same time, getting the enemy to 50% so she can proc a twirl, it's just, even on paper, it just sounds like a nightmare to even like do all that. But in MLC, you know, there's some couple of units that have been able to, you know, shred the enemy's HP to the point where she can actually deal some respectable damage in MLC. But even as a whole, having to lower the enemy's HP just to get her to twirl is kind of, especially with this whole HP inflation, is starting to be a lot more challenging to actually get enemies to even get them to 80%, even with the strongest characters. Herta is gonna go down as the game progresses, especially if they keep inflating the enemy's HP. But as a whole, she's okay, you know, and on top of that, she's a free character. They give you the Eidolons completely for free. Just gotta play Simulate it and you're good to go. Gallagher, ooh, Gallagher. Okay, this is gonna be a really heavy one. I think people are not gonna agree with me on this one. Cause with DPS, I'm looking, you know, it's like, oh, how much can they hit? Like how strong they can be, at what cost? Like, do they need like a specific thing? Can they do with low investment, high investment? Same thing with sustains. It's more like, can they keep the team alive? For most of them, yes, that's the case. And some of them can do like a couple extra benefits, but those benefits, I'm not gonna take them into consideration because at that point, they can just be like a whole different unit. For example, Huo, at that point, she can just be a harmony character for the energy and the buff. Lingxia, she should be erudition character for the super break damage she deals. So, you know, I'm looking more at like, can they actually keep the team alive and how simple and comfortable it is to keep the team alive. Looking at Gallagher as a healer, because with super break, he's really good, honestly, because, you know, super break is all that. He gives Basota, which increases break damage, so essentially you're buffing your break characters. But to keep the team alive with this man, honestly, it is a struggle. Even if you have energy on Gallagher, if you give him like 124, 135 energy on that crazy stuff, it's still pretty difficult because, you know, single target healing, even with his AoE healing, the enemy has to have Basota. So let's say, for example, in pure fiction, you inflict Basota, but you kill everyone with super break, and then the new wave comes in and you hit them with your basic attack, you're not healing anybody because they have to have Basota. And that's kind of like unfortunate thing. It has happened to me quite a little bit, so that's why I'm saying that. As a whole, you know, he requires Eidolons to cleanse. It's E2, so people that get him at E0, it's gonna be a little bit tough. So for that reason, his struggles from actually keeping the entire team alive, let alone one person alive, because like his effect resistance is pretty good, but then again, it can skyrocket only if you give him Eidolons. You know, that's kind of a letdown. That's something I don't like about current new 4-stars, where like if you don't have Eidolons, then what's the point essentially? But then again, they're kind of easier to get Eidolons. So even with that, even with the Eidolons and all that, I'll put him at T1.5 because like honestly it's kind of a struggle to keep them alive. And on that same note, because people do tend to say that Gallagher and Luocha are kind of related, I'm gonna just put Luocha in the same tier because Luocha also, he's really good, but I learned that this man has a cooldown on his auto heal. Ooh, I saw that because at first I was like, oh yeah, this character, like he's up here, like what the heck? But then I saw he has a cooldown on his auto heal. I don't know about that, Chief. I don't know about that. Yeah, he has the AoE healing, which Gallagher doesn't have. And now that I say that out loud, excuse me, if there's characters that kind of like do something like in a way they kind of compensate each other, they'll be going on the same tier. For example, Luocha can auto heal, but Gallagher can't. But Gallagher can also like provide for the team, but Luocha can't. It's kind of like they're kind of like countering each other, like kind of being good where the other one can't be. They're all gonna be in the same tier because they kind of balance each other or something like that. Again, my eyes, my opinion. Let me know if you disagree. Lynx is a very interesting character. It's not gonna be her replacement, at least for now. But Lynx is just Natasha, because with that in mind, I can put Lynx here because Lynxia AoE cleanse, Natasha only single cleanse. But I'm gonna give Lynx the upper hand just because of the max HP increase. There's like some play with some characters that prefer max HP, for example Blade, and you know, with Eidolon she can give like effect resistance a pretty good amount. But even then, not much to say about Lynx. She's solid, not as good as we thought at first, but it is what it is. Gepard, this is actually a unit that I'm starting to hate with a burning passion because I got this man at E4S2. I've lost so many 50-50s, but even then, like, let me actually just start thinking about it. His shields are actually really good. He does provide a lot of shields. Like, you can actually like just straight up lock someone up on like a shield. Like, you can go and see that shield getting like 80%, 90% of like a character's HP. That's really, really, really good. However, there's something that I just don't really like about Gepard, and that is his shield. Because you can apply his shield, right? But the fact is that it doesn't scale off of his like defense. It just like absorbs a certain amount, period. And it doesn't stack. Like Aventurine, his follow-up, it can like, you know, like when he follow up or like when he uses a skill, it kind of stacks. Gepard doesn't do that. And I wish he had one or the other. Either his shield could absorb based off of his defense, or when you apply his ultimate, it could stack. Granted, that'd be a little bit too broken, but then again, like, you gotta put some value in some characters, man. Like, we got characters like Aventurine. Granted, he can freeze, so it can put a little bit more value on the whole like sustaining. Like, if there's an enemy that's coming in that's gonna deal some crazy damage, you can freeze them, and you know, you can save a turn, you can keep your team a little bit more alive. But I wish it was better and not just, oh, here you go, shield. Because with Gepard's shield, it can be a lot, but it can be just as squishy as like Fire MC, where like with one tap there goes like all your shield. Gepard is like, oh, you get one tap by a street lamp, you get one tap, there goes 80% of your shield. So like, what was the point of having like 3,000 shield if like that 3,000 is gonna be gone in like 2 hits essentially? Yeah, you can give us some energy, you can give us some speed, you can give him like some defense, but he's very bare bones. He's very like straight to it. So for that reason, C2, Luca. I wish I could play, honestly, I'm like admit it, I wish I could play more of Luca, because honestly he's actually pretty cool of a character, like in looks and play style and all that. He does some like good break damage. He does like not super break, like just straight up break. His stacks play, like having the 2 unleashes like his like fury punches, is neat. The vulnerability, all that is really nice. His damage is actually pretty good, but I don't know. I wish I could play more. Maybe I could say like his energy management is kind of an issue, or his damage. Like even with that one event from 2.5, yeah, 2.5, where like you get to play with him and like the crazy buff, even with that, it's kind of strange. I'd say the reason, it might be because he's like a little bit lackluster. Like his design, like kit is really neat and all that, but he's kind of a bit of a lackluster, honestly, because he's also gonna like need to have like his bleed that can create some like skill point management issues. Skill point neutral, skill point negative, skill point positive. It's really depending on the enemy, like the speed and all that stuff. He's kind of a strange individual, but I will say, seeing people like the way they be playing like Luca and like the insane ways that they play this man, like he just like one shots anything, is actually really, really fun to see. But even then, I can kind of see like his drawbacks as well. So for that, I'll give him a respectable T3. I'll put him in C tier. He's pretty solid. I won't cap. Harmony MC. Okay, nah, yo, these two are like Harmony MC. Yeah. Easy as like T0, probably 0.5, but let me explain why I say T0. These characters, or this character, single-handedly like enable super break. Super break, really good. I know there's some people that don't like super break because of how accessible it is. You know, there's like a whole can of worms that opens up with that statement, so I'm not gonna go through it. Basically, they enable super break deal tons of damage when they're in the weakness broken state. It scales off a break effect. Like, honestly, they are really nice. They can do some damage because of the super break, obviously, but even outside of super break, they can do a good amount of toughness reduction with their skill, even without a raw melee. Like, granted, that's how it is with like most bounce attacks, especially that are like towards a single target. But even without that, like, breaking with Harmony is not even that hard, like them on their own. By breaking, they get some extra energy. That's the other thing. Like, you gotta use their ultimate to proc super break, and getting their ultimate is not even that hard. It's like second nature, essentially, because like you scale, you get tons of energy. You break, they break, tons of energy. Someone else breaks, they get tons of energy. There's Harmony light cones that give energy, so they're gonna be even like easier to get energy. You could give them Dance Dance Dance, more moves, that means energy. Like, it doesn't matter if you give them energy rope, no energy rope. There's multiple ways of getting their energy, getting that super break. So essentially you're getting like that permanent super break going, and they have synergies. Like, literally the fact that they can just enable a different playstyle or like a different way of dealing damage, and all you gotta do is just either give your characters break or just simply just put them in, and then they're good to go. Like, literally I was able to clear an MLC with Harmony Trailblazer with a doctor ratio. I was running break ratio and I didn't even change anything. I still gave him like crit rate, crit damage, but because super break is so good, I was able to like beat a MLC because I ran Harmony and C with doctor ratio. It was actually crazy. I was not expecting that result, but holy, do they have some like flaws and like pushbacks? Yeah, every character does. The fact they can actually like have ways to counter their flaws, like that's something that is going to be pretty common in the tier list. Characters that can counter their flaws, honestly, it's like incredible. It's like being up here, like the fact that they can do that is honestly incredible. So that's why I'm putting them also up there. And like, they just enable so many things. They're like really easy to build. They're free. Their items are also free. You get like, oh, you're really good with the with this like path for the main characters. So that's why first C0 character up there, honestly. Linksha, would you look at that? Another super break character. Same thing about how I was talking about like keeping the team alive. Honestly, at first I was thinking about Linksha and I was like, okay, Linksha needs to follow up. So because like, okay, Linksha AoE attacks with her bunny, you get that up, that gets the summon, the little bunny's attack. They deal damage, they also heal, AoE healing plus AoE cleansing, which is absolutely insane. And I thought about it, I was like, okay, so there's a certain amount that you can actually do with the bunnies. You have like 5 times, that's the max amount. The ways of proccing the bunny's follow-up is kind of a bit strange, either using her ultimate or getting a low amount of health. There's like some factors, and for those reasons, like relying on the follow-up to actually cleanse kind of bumped me down a little bit. And I was thinking, okay, then she should go at 0.5 because, you know, she can keep the team alive, but like the requirement of actually going or using the follow-up is kind of a bummer. But then I thought about it, Wohu has her little stacks at the bottom that without that, you know, they can't be healed, you know, they can't be cleansed and all that. And even that is really simple to just like achieve, maintain, sustain and all that. So I was like, you know what? And on top of that, the ultimate can actually like advance the bunnies 100%. And that's not even taking into account the super break damage and the break vulnerabilities and debuffs and all that. So for that reason, honestly, Linksha goes in like T0. That's our next T0 character. The fact that she can just heal on every move, I don't think she can heal with her basic, but the fact that she can heal with her skill, follow-up, ultimate, her ultimate can be also like any of her moves are essentially can be like a emergency heal. The bunnies come in clutch as a emergency heal. She may not cleanse on her skill or ultimate. If the bunnies don't cleanse, Linksha will just be like over healing your team. It's gonna be insane. So if your enemy has like, or your allies have like 15,000 debuffs and you can't move the bunny, it's okay, because Linksha, like, she can just like skill, she can use her ultimate, and then like it'll just heal them to oblivion. So even if the 15 dots prog, the team will still be alive. So honestly, and on top of that is the damage. So honestly, Linksha, honestly, T0. Since we're talking about sustains, I'm gonna just throw Ho-Ho up here. Honestly, I gas up this character a lot for a good reason. AoE healing with her skill alone. Granted, Linkship can do the same thing, but in this tier list, I'm not really trying. I'm gonna try my best to not compare other units and kind of like downgrade them and all like all that stuff. So I'm gonna see. I'll just talk about their character kit as a whole. The Ho-Ho can AoE heal with her skill. Super crazy, super good. It can cleanse with that. Her talent, when the unit goes, or like anyone goes when it's their turn, they get healed, they get cleansed. If someone in the team is low on health, they'll get cleansed, they'll get healed. Granted, if you haven't ran off the 6 cleanse limit, because it has a limit, unfortunately, it's like it can cleanse up to 6 debuffs. But then again, you can just like refresh it with her skill, or you won't even be like getting to that degree as much unless you have like super fast characters. Gives attack, gives energy. Honestly, super comfy character. I don't know how at first we thought that this character was going to be like a big brain character to play. But honestly, this character has proven to be like super comfortable, honestly. Like ever since I pulled her 1.5, every single time I'm using a Ho-Ho in everything, be it MOC, Apocalyptic, be it Pure Fiction, it don't matter. I'm using a Ho-Ho, be it to keep them alive, to give them some buff. She is so versatile. She can be placed on any team. Now, I will say getting her ultimate is kind of tough, honestly. Like energy management on Ho-Ho is a little bit difficult. Even if you give her energy like sets and all that, energy rope, it's still kind of tough to get her ultimate. But granted, it's a very expensive ultimate. But there's some Lycons that you can slap on her and she should be good to go. You can give her basically any abundance Lycon and she's good to go. By the way, that's another thing. Characters, like discussing this tier list, 5 stars, they're gonna be an E0 unless there's like the free ones like Harmony MC. The only exception is gonna be Ratio, because you know you only get them at E0, but that's about it. So this is like mostly E0. Same thing with the standard 5 stars. They're gonna be an E0, maybe with like some idle ones, but even then, like it doesn't push the performance that drastically. Like let's say Yangsheng E6 skyrockets him to like T1 or 0.5. No, that's not even the case. E0 S0 Ho-Ho, one of the best healers in the game, honestly. So Gwenifin, Nihility character, Gwenifin's gonna be tough because she is actually a very good all-rounded character when you think about it. She can be used in dots, she can be used as a support, she can be used for debuffs, she can be used for break. She's very solid. In my eyes, she's an all-rounded character. Because of the Fire Kiss, proccing Fire Kiss, I know, I wasn't aware, but it turns out that it's actually kind of difficult to proc Fire Kiss by normal means. If you want her to proc faster, just treat her as Black Swan with Kafka. You know how like Kafka skilling on Black Swans like Arcana that builds up Arcana stacks and that procs, and that's a debuff, and that goes for like Akron. Gwenifin with Kafka can be the same thing, honestly. Like if you skill Kafka on someone that has Fire Kiss or like a fire that procs Fire Kiss, and that's a stack on it that also counts towards Akron debuff. So you know there's some synergy on that. If you don't have a Kafka or like a character that can enable dots, it can be a little bit tough to do all that, but even then, she's honestly really solid. Will she perform at her best or like still like deliver like insane like performance? No, not really, because granted, even at E6 with her like 4 Fire Kiss stacks, it's still kind of tough. And the damage bonus also, granted, it's only applied to 1 enemy, or you know, it's actually pretty tough to like get them up real quick. Even with those downsides, like you'll honestly like really like enjoy playing with Gwenifin, and you'll see it's like some slight changes with your characters. She got some very team like synergies, like with Ratio, you can just skill boom enough debuff so he can get 100% guaranteed follow-ups. Really solid character. So for that, I want to see what's the middle, and I'm gonna just place her in the middle because she's also a very like well-rounded character. So for that, yeah, there you go. T2. Next up is Topaz. Oh, would you look at that? The one character's banner that they were together. Oh my god. Ah. Anyways, follow-up synergistic character. You know the whole thing, investing in victory means playing the long game and all that. You know, people be saying that Topaz aged like fine wine, and honestly, she did. She has been able to synergize with many characters that, you know, are follow-up. For example, Yangsheng, really good. Because of his little follow-up. Aventurine, she can synergize, actually, my bad. She can synergize with Kafka. She can synergize with, Moza. She can synergize with March 7th Punch. She can synergize with Trey, Jade, and essentially any character that can do follow-up. Now, the one downside about Topaz is that the whole like follow-up vulnerability debuff only applies to one target. Kind of a little bit of a bummer. Characters that can actually maximize that performance could be someone like Ratio or Fei Xiao. So that's a little bit of a downside, but her damage or like her buffs on follow-up is actually really, really good. That's 50%. And then on top of that, using her ultimate, so it makes Numbi even stronger because Numbi also attacks the person that has the debuff. So Numbi's gonna be doing some damage, and then that's gonna make it even more damage. And there's something about the ultimate, because you can move Numbi on the action advance bar by actually proccing follow-ups. That's like the only way without the ultimate. But with the ultimate, anybody can like move Numbi. So it actually like builds up like this kind of like really like strategic thing where it's like, oh, do you want to move Numbi here now or on another enemy, or do you want to move him now if you're trying to use like this character on another enemy because Numbi's coming? It's a really interesting like playstyle that honestly, when I got Topaz and I started playing, I was like, it's actually just kind of fun. Honestly, it's actually kind of fun. So for that, I would put her at T1 because of her niche, but the fact that even like her on herself can provide quite a decent amount. Like she can be a hyper carry damage. I don't know why, but there's people that can go for that. So for that, you know what? She gonna be there in 0.5, honestly. Them cheeks up there at T0. So I'm gonna just, hit the next IPC member. And do I even gotta talk about Aventurine, man? Like, holy, if Luocha is brain dead, easy pass for the whole game, like just put him, you win the game. Aventurine is literally like a cheat code. This man is like the Nintendo 64, Mario 64 Nintendo cheat codes where you can just give Mario infinite star power up, or you can just let him like infinitely jump and stuff like that. That's Aventurine in this game. How can you kill the team when Aventurine is like on the field? Yeah, does he synergize with follow-ups where like you get some of his stacks? Yeah, but even without that, like they just gotta get hit. His shield is really strong. He provides a ton of shield. It absorbs based on like his defense. It stacks with the follow-ups. Granted, he doesn't cleanse, nor is the shields actually like the shields can be actually like drained by some dots, but like one shots are not an issue to this guy. On top of that, he like applies a debuff where like it receives more crit damage, but again, preservation, a sustain, keeping the team alive. This character just provides an insane amount of value where like I still don't understand how he's like not a must pull. Like any character in this game, honestly, they're not a must pull. Maybe in my opinion might say Aventurine because he's just that good. Like you literally, none of your characters will know death after Aventurine. You put Aventurine, they don't know what's dying. They don't know what's being knocked out. They don't know what's even taking damage because he's just there just providing shields and then doing some like chip damage, no pun intended. It's insane. It's insane. Asta. Ooh, Asta's an interesting character, honestly. Asta, she's honestly a quite solid character. Like she gives a insane amount of attack buffs, like because it's like based off of stacks. But if you max out her if you max out her talent, like she's giving an absurd amount of attack to the whole party. Because you know how like Ho-Ho gives like 40% on her ultimate? Asta at E6 with maxed out talent, she gives 70% attack. You know how good that is on dot teams? That is ridiculous. Granted, she's like a fire character, but fire dots aren't really that good unless your name is Gwenhyphen. That's still really solid. Like on breaks, like super break, that's actually really good because break and super break, they kind of scale off attack and all that crazy stuff. If you give her this chick like everything speed, like if you treat her the same way you treat Hanya, by giving her like a bunch of speed, dance, and sands, man, your team is gonna be Flash, Sonic, whatever character you think that is like a super fast character. Like, they're gonna be zooming. Now, the one downside that I can see that's kind of like really, really bad on her is actually maintaining her attack stacks. It's kind of tough because even with Eidolon seeing 2, 3, 4 stacks like leaving your eyes in just one turn, it's kind of it can be kind of a bummer. And in those cases, she can be skill point negative. So that's not really good on most content, because you want your supports to either be skill point positive or skill point neutral. You know, you want to buff them without sacrificing that many resources. But even with all that, she's actually really well. Dear Lord, may I not forget her freaking toughness reduction on that skill. Now, if you think I'm glazing any of these characters, please let me know, because the next character I'm gonna talk about right now, ooh, I gotta control myself. Hunt March 7th. Golly. Again, I'm the biggest March simp out there in the world. Like, don't try me. This character, I always said that she's like the best shielder. Granted, I gotta get to like real terms. Gotta get to the reality. She can struggle. But then they dropped her. What were they thinking? Like, March, did you try out crack or something for the first time? With or without Eidolons, this character, like her kit as a whole, is so freaking good. This character is dumb. Permanent speed. From that speed, you know, she makes like someone like their Shifu or their master. She follows attack. Once she gets like a certain amount of attacks, she advances forward 100%. She deals respectable damage. There's been moments where like this character has clutch or it's just cut off so many cycles because of her basic. It's ridiculous. She can work well with anybody, honestly. It can be follow-up, it can be super break, it don't matter. This character's right there. She's buffing, she's dealing damage, she gets speed, she gives crit damage with Eidolons. She like, and even with some Eidolons, she gets some back. Like for example, she gets speed, like the same speed she gets on the Shifu, she gets that herself. The crit damage, she also gets that herself, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm being mistaken, then it's still a crit damage buff and break effect. Yeah, it's a crit damage to the Shifu, some break effect to the Shifu as well, and she gets like some crit damage as well. My dear Lord. And then on top of that, by skilling on like your Shifu, depending on what they're following, she does something like quirky. This character, you can put her anywhere, it doesn't matter. There's so little like weaknesses or like flaws that March has, because like she just essentially does it all so freaking good. And me being biased, I'd say I'll put her in T0, honestly, but she's a 4-star, and I know there's some 4-stars that are really good, but it's Honkai Star Rail. No 4-star is gonna be up here in T0. So for that, I'm gonna push her down to T0.5, honestly, because even there's some like synergies and like compositions that by just replacing March 7th, you're not missing that much. For example, the Fei Xiao team, the Fart team, hey man, me personally, if you replace Robin from that team and you put a March 7th, you'll be getting more ultimates with Fei Xiao. You'll be dealing some good damage, and you're not even gonna sacrifice that much damage from Fei Xiao herself. That's just me though. That's just me. You know what? I'm feeling Boo Hill, so let's talk about Boo Hill. All right, real quick. All right, let's see. This character, call it whatever you want. Super break, crit. This dude's the GOAT, honestly. This character just deals insane amount of damage to the enemy. Is not even crazy. Holy, sometimes I'll be like playing him and I see that he just be cracking 600, 700, 800k damage with like some bareborn. Like I be putting no effort on. I was like, he just be like just effortlessly doing. I was like, bro, there is one weakness that he has that is a little bit unfortunate, and that is the fact that he can't really break anything unless you use his ultimate, which, you know, implants weakness. But even with that, it's kind of tough to get his energy up without energy manipulation, like let's say energy regeneration like Ting Young, Sunday and all that, or giving him a energy rope. Let's be real, 99% of like Boo Hill players wouldn't swap that break effect rope to an energy rope. I'm making comfier, but hey man, it's all about that damage. If he didn't have those like daring flaws, he would easily be like up here. But he got those flaws, and so for that reason, he's gonna go down there. Don't get me wrong, he's really destructive. Fugwe might make him better, maybe, or like make it easier for him to break enemies without the physical weakness. Maybe potentially speaking, he might go to T0 up, like maybe with that. But for now, she hasn't released yet. He's gonna stay there in T0.5. Like, we give him a little bit more power or a little bit more flexibility, hey man, he gonna make everyone here in this game look like a complete joke. let's bring our favorite robot, our favorite puppet, our favorite whatever you want to call it. She's a bit difficult to play, but it's not really because she's like difficult to play because she's got some like intricate design. It's difficult to make her, she's difficult to pop off because she has like this sort of hybrid build into it. I think she's like the first ever hybrid character. She has break, but she also can be played as crit. Like she might be doing like, I don't know, some freaking March 7th damage. All the time she's just doing like bajillion damage. It's kind of, there's like a lot of factors going on that is honestly kind of a bummer. Even with super break, like you have to break them and you know, she can do like really solid. Her follow-up goes through like toughness, but you need eidolons, and with her ultimate is really good, you know, because it does a good chunk. But granted, to do good damage, it requires to also like chuck a ton of toughness. So if you're breaking like an enemy with like a little chip, it may not do that much. It might get carried by like the break itself, but like the overall damage bonus that she gets from the ultimate by just yeeting it to the Marstruck, it can be kind of strange to deal with. So for that, she can be like a really like in between like T2, T3. Like she has some like parts and moments that kind of be a little bit iffy. If you like give her like some crazy investment, she can kind of work. But if you're trying to just not trying to sweat, not trying to give no 100 crit rate, 500 crit damage, 300 speed, 5,000 attack, E10, S15 or something like that, it's kind of tough. I will say, Fugwe with Shui, these two, if it goes like I'm thinking and how I'm like I want it to be, because I want to do some testing when she comes out, if this character makes Shui like go like crazy, I won't cap. In some tier list, she might go from up here, maybe potentially up here, and like the ones where she's already good enough, that's just me. That's just me though. Like that's just me. As she stands by now, she's kind of strange. She's very strange to actually like perform as well. Granted, she's a 4-star. You're gonna hear me say that a lot. She's a 4-star. I do like to say that if a character needs another support or another character just to be good, then they were never good to begin with. So for that, I'll just play it fair, play it safe. Which on that note, actually, a little bit controversial, even though a certain character came out, Genuine, T3. Yeah, with Sunday, he can become really solid, really good up here, but you need Sunday. If you don't have Sunday, he's still gonna be performing just as average as he is, like even before him and all that. And even with other supports, there's just so many strange things about it. Like getting crowd control is not good. You got to build up those stacks. He gets some like built-in buffs like crit rate, crit damage. That's really neat. He just feels very, very weak on his own. Granted, on his own, and I'm saying on his own, like looking at his kit overall, not really like, oh yeah, best team in slots and all that. Because hey man, if you put like a best team scenario where it's like Genuine, Robin, Sunday and all that, and he can like pop off and he's like T0, well guess what, you can replace Genuine with any other DPS and they'll perform 15 times better than him. So like, but again, this is just my opinion. If you disagree, again, let me know. Having the whole bounce attack, which even though the bounce do AoE, the fact that even with that, enemies still won't die, and then you gotta keep in mind that you have to like keep from being crowd control, kind of like Yang Sheng, where you don't want him to get hit. You also want to make sure he doesn't get crowd control, and then you gotta buff him like crazy, and then you gotta get those 10 stacks and then all that, and then you get all the stars aligned, and he deals like 100k. And it's like, like am I like really investing all this and then getting like investing so much and then getting in return so little? I just don't see the point. Kind of disappointing, honestly, because he's a really good character like in story and all that and looks and all that, but hey, justice for Genuine even without Sunday, honestly. So let's talk about an erudition female, someone that came out not too long ago, and that's gonna be Rappa right here, right? So Rappa, don't get anything twisted. Rappa is a good character. She's a good DPS dealer. She's a good super break dealer. There's some setbacks that can be like kind of toggled and like kind of quote unquote fixed. Like you're gonna put her in like unknown territories and unknown situations. For example, what do I mean? Like, you know, she does some like AoE break, super break damage, which is all good and dandy, But if you can't get her energy up, then you know you can swap Gallagher to a Ho-Ho, and then you know you're gonna get the energy with a Ho-Ho. And honestly, me personally, I prefer playing her that way because as soon as she gets off her enhanced state, you immediately get like you almost immediately get her ult like up and going even without her light cone, because that's something else that I'm also talking about these characters. I want to make sure that none of these characters have to rely on their light cones. So you know, Ho-Ho, Rappa, without her light cone, you can get her energy up pretty decently and all that. But granted, you're going to be losing some of that break damage that Gallagher delivers. Granted, the attack will buff, you know, the whole like damage and the super break, but sometimes it's better to have a permanent damage that's AoE rather than like a couple of turn big buff, if you know what I mean. This game is very like scenario-ish. It really depends on like your account, your characters, your investment and all that. I think that Rappa is like one of those characters. She does struggle breaking the enemy if they're not imaginary. Even with a raw May, it could kind of take her 2 out of her 3 basic attacks, like enhanced basic attacks, to actually break the enemy and do super damage. It's a little bit unfortunate, but the reward she gives, like the amount of like super break, absurd actually. Like if she didn't have those issues about having to break and like having her ultimate up and ready and all that, one of the best characters in the game. But that is not the case, and there has to be some like different things that you have to like play around Rappa so she can actually perform and all that. In my eyes, she might go either T0.5 or T1, one of these two. So you know what, I'm gonna put her in T1. Before, like, this is obviously before Fuga's release. After Fuga's release, she will go up here to like T0.5 because of the exo toughness. More exo toughness, easier stacks she's gonna get, more stacks, more damage. It's also gonna be a little teeny bit easier to break the enemies. For now, like, she's still really good. It's just if you want to play her in the optimal way, like the super break and all that, you're gonna go through like some issues, and like if you want to fix some of them issues, you're gonna have to change your team compositions, and that's not something that most Hoyo players, or not Hoyo players, Star Rail players want to do with their already invested accounts and characters. So for that, I'll just put her at T1. Now let me go and put Hanya real quick down here with Asta, because these two, honestly, they provide the same buffs and damage and all that. It's just that one does the AoE and the other one does it to like a single character. Really simple character to build up speed and all that. So she's gonna go there next to Asta. Next up, Argenti. Very simple, bearable character. He's really straight to the point. Hit, get energy, ult, rinse and repeat. He gets some like extra damage bonuses based on like the enemies and all that. So he's actually like one of the better characters in pure fiction. Not really the same about apocalyptic and MOC though, because he's not gonna have the same amount of energy enemies. He won't get that much energy. He won't be doing that much damage. His single target not good, which to be expected. He's an erudition character. He wants to hit as many enemies as he can. But looking at his kit and the way he performs, people downplaying him down here to like T3. Granted, I don't have him and I don't play that much, but like honestly, putting him down here is just kind of not it. He's good for his niche. He gets the job done. He's like Japar. So I'm gonna put him in T2 because he's just like Japar. They get the job done, and that's all that matters. That they can like provide and perform and like deliver with what their plays into. That's really neat. Sushang. She could be here at T4. Got to do quite a bit to make her work, and even with all that, she kind of underperforms. But honestly, she can kind of like counter some of that stuff. For example, like, oh, she doesn't do that much damage. Oh, her ticks are kind of random. Okay, her ultimate, it makes her like, it gives her advance forward, and if you break, she gets some speed, and it's a really respectable amount of speed that she can get on her. So you'll be able to kind of, she's like a chip damage character, not in the literal sense with her little ticks. If you've played like a fighting game, let's say like something like Blaze Blue or like Tekken, some characters that they can like just chip you out, be it when you're shielding or something like that. That's how I feel that Sushang is. She just deals like chip damage that will just add up. It has to be respected, honestly, and also funny chicken. So so that's why I think she goes in T3. You know what? I'm just going to do this just for fun because, you know, they're physical and, you know, they're single targets. Before I move on, None of this is ordered. I'm just putting these things for fun, just to put them like together and all that. But none of this is ordered. Like, no, Shuei's not better than Argenti. No, Gwyneth is not better than Hanya. They're all like equally leveled in this. I need QQ. I'm gonna put her at T2 just for the sake of her RNG. You either consume one skill point and she's doing like ching-chillion damage, or you're consuming 15,000 skill points off of like the bank and she's still gonna be hitting like a wet noodle. Honestly, like, she's very RNG. Even with the RNG, it's kind of tough to play with her. And then on top of that, she kind of needs some skill points. So Hanya, Sparkle, and if you don't have those characters, well, tough luck. Same thing with Dong Hung, which we'll be getting with him in a second. You gotta play like with some factors outside of your range of your control, and then on top of that, you gotta play alongside like QQ's RNG. And there's some benefits that you get with Eidolons, but if you don't have Eidolons with QQ, let's say if you don't have E4 or E6, you're gonna have a very bad time with QQ. And honestly, that's how I felt the longest, up until I got like E4 and then E6. And then even with all that, there's still that one RNG factor where you either consuming a lot or consuming a little, and then you won't have enough skill points for the rest of the team. Let's say for even Sparkle to like pull her up, or for like another character to like apply their thing and stuff like that. So, you know, she's gonna be at T2. Serval, I'm so sorry that I forgot about her name. I've just been talking for a good while. But Serval, I like to call her the budget version of Kafka, because she's just Kafka. She's just Kafka without the dots, but everything that Kafka can do, so can Serval. It's just that she does it at a lower degree. She can pop off even without that much of investment. You still need some investment, like you still gotta give her like some stats. You gotta still make like a good synergy, but it doesn't have to be like that super crucial. For example, you don't need an E6 Bronya to make Serval pop off. Even with like, you know, your E6 Asta, E6 Taehyung, your some other 4-star character, and maybe like another like limited 5-star, for example, Ruan Mei or Robin. Even at E0, she'll perform. Like, you don't need E1 or E2. Even with E0, like Serval can like still perform and all that. She's a very niche character though. Like, she can only like perform with like certain aspects. For example, the latest Apocalyptic Shadow, she can kind of perform. She can do really good because of, you know, having to hit so many characters. And Serval's actually really easy to get her ultimate, so that's why she can kind of perform there. And, you know, like get the buffs, get the damage, like break and all that. She can do some solid damage, but she's a 4-star. Again, I said that again. Multiplier is pretty low. I think she's on the squishier side, but overall, I'd say T3, because she can perform, but you gotta invest a lot on her. And like everybody else, and the return and the pay, you know, all that, it's not that big. So I'll just be putting her at T3. Himeko, this is another character that's going to be a little bit controversial. I think Himeko is T3. With Fugui coming out, she might get a little bit bumped here to T2, but let me explain. A lot of people like to say that Himeko got buffed. She got buffed. She needed some buffs. In my eyes, she never got buffed. She just became relevant in certain modes. And when I mean certain modes, I mean pure fiction, like essentially the only one. Maybe Apocalyptic Shadow, but granted, you gotta have like either super break or like tons of enemies that you can break so she can actually kind of be viable, which not every single Apocalyptic Shadow is gonna be like that. So there's that one niche. Her multipliers are so low, her Eidolons are so kind of okay. Her kit, while it's good that it's around like breaking, because hey, I'm gonna be real, I'm a break character. Like even day one, I love breaking enemies, like just getting their toughness down, and then seeing Himeko just brrrr, that's really fun. But even with that, I feel like she doesn't really have that many ways to actually like go many times with her kit, aside from, you know, the usual, which is breaking. Because you can say that, oh, you can just put like some character to break and then she'll do her follow-up, but her follow-up isn't really as strong to be a necessity or like a requirement or something that drives you to actually like break and proc her follow-ups. Like, she has different like play styles and different ways to build her. That's kind of neat, but on her own, she hasn't changed one bit. She's still gonna be struggling in like X, Y, and Z factors. Again, pure fiction. Up here, really good character. That's what made me build her. And other modes, but even like in other modes and like overall, like let's say she's like a hyper carry damage dealer or something like that, she's not it. You know what, let me take something back, because she can be used for like other teams where like she's the one where like she can be used like a sub DPS or like a secondary like character that can deal some damage. So there can be some value for that. So just for that, I'm gonna pop her up to T2. My point still stands where like she hasn't really changed. She just became relevant. Just same thing with Herta. Jade. This is my character right here. Holy Jade. I'm gonna put her with Himeko. I'm gonna put her in T2. Most of the things that I mentioned about Himeko were like, oh, she can't really like attack that much often, and when she does attack, it's not that major. Same thing is for Jade. Like Jade is the queen of pure fiction because, you know, the enemies and the buffs and all that. But when it's like outside of that, she's not providing, like she's not hitting that much. I'm gonna be putting her there. I do know that she buffs with like her speed and all that, but I will say that the people that were saying that, oh no, she sucks, she's down here, she's at D tier, T3, T4 and all that. Honestly, she provides, at least she can provide something for like the team and like at the enemies. It's just not that rewarding, like outside of pure fiction and stuff like that. But as a whole, she's really solid, honestly. So I'm gonna put her at T2. Acheron, holy, this character. Yeah, this was also gonna be controversial. I wanted to make a video discussing about like Acheron, but I've scrapped that so many times at this point I'm just not gonna do it. So I'll just explain a couple of things in this tier list. She's really good. Single target, AoE targets, like any mode, she's just sweeping, clapping and all that. She's just a really good character. The one downside, however, is she is so restrictive. If you don't have 2 Nihility characters, if you don't have her Light Cone, if you don't have E2, like if you don't have Eidolons, if you don't have like perfect stats and all that, this character is not as good as people say. But if you have at least 2 of the things mentioned, then she can be solid. Don't get me wrong, like she's super strong and like she gets some of it, and the paid is like really good. But the fact that you have to have some stars aligned and all that, and you have to have like, you know, some investment, is just, it's just not really that great. And again, I'm talking about E0 S0. I find it funny like when they moved her down to T0.5, there's a whole rampage. But honestly, that's just the truth. She's super good, don't get me wrong, she's really good. But without those like criterias in her pockets or in her like hands, she is not performing. Like I've tried no Nihility characters. Oh yeah, I have experience with E0, E1 and E2. At E0, if you have no Nihility, which I've tried, she's not doing damage. If you have 1 Nihility, 1 Harmony, you can get some damage, but it's not enough to the point that you want to run 1 Nihility, 1 Harmony at E0, let alone E1. Like to feel complete, that's an E2 thing. But at E0, E1, she's gonna be lacking. Like, well, like she might deal like a little bit less, but with Acheron, every single damage counts. So having that whole thing about 2 Nihilities, and on top of that, most Nihility characters, at least for Acheron's like needs, aren't really there to fulfill. Like maybe like Black Swan, Pela, and that's about it. Those are the only ones that I can think of. Like Silver Wolf probably, but you know, Acheron is an AoE, not a single target character. Like she can do well with single targets, but she's doing AoE most of the time. So unless it's a boss, there's no reason for Silver Wolf and Acheron. It's either have Nihility, Light Cone, Eidolons and all that, and yeah, E0 S0, she fits right there at T5, not T0. Like T0, if she didn't have any of the restrictions, or at least some of the restrictions, and she would like perform quite well, then she'd be at T0. For example, if you still needed the Nihility characters, but you didn't need like 190 crit damage and 80 crit rate and all that, and then the Light Cone, then yeah. But she still needs some of those to, you know, perform and do really well and, you know, have an easy time. So she's gonna be at T0.5. Even with the relic set where like you get some extra like crit value and all that, it's not that much to make Acheron like be more all-rounded and more consistent. You're just gonna be getting like what, a total of 8 extra crit rate. That's not that much. Like at that point, just put a Fuchu on so you can get even more. flexibility and comfortability. That's a little bit too bitter, so let me go ahead and pick up a character that's just absolutely belonging up here in T0, and this one is gonna be surprising to absolutely everybody. And when I mean everybody, it literally means nobody. Who's that character I'm talking about? Ruan Mei. Holy, like I see people that have been saying, holy Akron is like so good, how were they able to like greenlight her? Oh my god, Firefly and Face Shell, they're like so good, how were they able to be greenlit? Oh, Sparkle, Ratio and all that, oh Robin and all that. I'm gonna need someone to tell me, why did they greenlit this character Ruan Mei? This character can just do it all. She does it. Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're running super break, she's gonna perform. It doesn't matter if you put in her dots, she's gonna perform. It doesn't matter if you're gonna put her in follow-up, she's gonna perform. There's some characters where like if you take them out their niche or like not in their strongest suit, they kind of won't perform that well. But with Ruan Mei is the only exception. You can put her anywhere and you're gonna get the maximum value of like anything, dog. Like weakness efficiency, insane amount of damage, break, speed, all type resistance penetration, delaying with like the bloom with her ultimate, like, and probably some other things that I'm thinking about. And you're not even like, you don't even gotta like break a leg or something. You don't gotta get Eidolons or light cones. Like getting those, like that's just cheating. Like that's another like cheat code on the Super Mario 64 lineup. Like holy, E0 S0, this character alone at E0 S0, she's just dumb. She's dumb. Literally can do it all. The only thing she can't do is heal. Now, speaking of Harmony, let's talk about someone that we thought was gonna be the most broken character in the whole game, and that is Sparkle right here. She's very RNG. She can perform either up here, like she can make your character like hit like crazy, or sometimes she's just not. Like sometimes maybe like down here, like sometimes she's like the most valuable, and then sometimes she's like pointless. Like what the heck? Like why did you even pull for her? And that's mostly because her niche of just providing skill points is all there is to her. That's all she can do. Yeah, she gives crit damage an insane amount. Yeah, she gives like some extra like damage bonus with like her talent and all that. But really, if you want crit damage, you can get Bronya Sunday. Don't get me wrong, Sparkles is really good. But outside of that, the overall damage bonus, let's say like Bronya, like she gives a good amount. Sparkle's giving so little. And all she's there is just to give some skill points. Like, yeah, the advanced forward is really neat, but most like Apocalyptic Shadow, all you're doing is just, you're going to be using her value, and then when you pull someone up, you're also going to be using value with them. For that reason, I think Bronya is better in Apocalyptic than Sparkle. Sparkle, yeah, T1. She's still good. She's still good. Don't get me wrong. But the fact that her whole niche and her whole thing is just to give skill points and that's it, it's kind of not it. Especially like if you know how to like actually manage your skill points, or like nowadays people have been able to actually like use less skill points, or if that's not the case, like they're still using a lot of skill points. Characters can do so much aside from just their skill, or like do so much that you don't really got to use that many skill points. So, you know, her value also kind of gets deteriorized by that. So for that reason, she goes down to T1. Now her counterpart is going to be a little bit different. Sunday, because this character, he's just Bronya. He's just every single Harmony character that isn't Robin or Ruan Mei, that's Sunday right there. He can battery, he can advance forward, he can give buffs, some really good buffs. Skill point management, he's actually skill point neutral without his light cone, which is actually really neat. He's really comfy. It makes your characters really strong. The one downside I think about Sunday is just that, you know, he's for summons characters. So if your character's not going to be a summon, they're not going to be that strong compared to like with characters with summons. But even still, the level of comfortability he provides is actually something to actually look forward to. He's not the best because of that whole thing with summons. So for that reason, he's going to be at there in S tier, 0.5. And honestly, he deserves it. Now his sister, on the other hand, his sister goes next to his brother, honestly, because she is also really good. A little rant before I talk about her. I like how like when they announced her kid, people were saying another Harmony character, why easy skip. She's not gonna be that good. And you know, fast forward to today, the most like used Harmony character in the whole game, and some people say she's now the best Harmony character in the game. Like she's better than Ruan Mei. Just like Ruan Mei, she can do it all, almost. Like Rome can do it all, Robin can do almost all. Like she can be placed in almost every comp and she will perform like crazy. The extra crit damage she provides, advanced forward, team wide, that's really good. The damage bonus is good. The extra ticks damage that she deals with anybody, that's also really humongous, really good. She's just a really good character. And then on top of that, you can kind of say that her weakness is about getting her energy if you don't have her light comp. But really, like it is true, but really, honestly, it's not even that hard to get her ultimate up. I think she has like one of the most expensive ultimates in the game. But even with the whole thing where like every time you like attack, she gets some energy, with the amount of times you're gonna be attacking with your allies with a Robin of the team, even without her light comp, when she's done, you can essentially just pop it again. It's that good. Like she's just that good. So you'll be constantly like advancing forward, dealing like top of the top damage. It's like, this character is honestly so good. I didn't pull her for meta. I pulled her because I absolutely love this character. And I'm glad she's actually really good. So, hey, I'm a Robin fan, you know what I'm saying? Moza or Mose, I like to call him Sung Jin Woo from Solo Leveling. Honestly, one of my favorite mangas or manhwas that I've read so far. Honestly, so good, bro. Much more solid than what I thought he'd be, even without Eidolons. With Eidolons, his damage actually is a lot better. But the fact that he can be used for like follow-up synergies and like some like extra like sub DPS and all that stuff. Heck, sometimes you can even use him as a main DPS, like the 4-star only showcase and stuff like that. He honestly surprised me a lot because I thought he was going to be like, whatever. But even with that, I'm still going to like use him and all that because I like his design. I don't like him as a character, but his design is really cool. But honestly, really good character. Like he can be used in like a bunch of different scenarios. You can use him with a face Shao, you can use him with ratio, you can use him with like Topaz, you can use him for like extra like stuff, you know, all that. His kit is not really that complex. It's just put him on the field, get him on an enemy, hit the enemy a couple times, he does follow-up, all that. He gets his own like he gives back skill points, he gets some advance, he gets some energy and all that stuff. He's actually really nice, really cool, really fun to play. When it comes to like overall performance, I'm gonna put him in T1 because March actually, like, these two are like essentially the same, but March just provides a much more comfort and much more value. Don't get me wrong, like most provides value and he provides all that, but you know, there's some scenarios where like you have to be like worried. Sometimes you're not gonna have that many characters to be on the line or like on the team actually dealing damage. For example, you put Robin and Moza on the team and then you're left with 2 characters and that's it. And then what are the 2 characters gonna be doing? So there's some scenarios like he can be kind of weird, but even with that, he's still really good, really solid. So that's why I'm putting him in T1. Yun Li is a very good character, honestly. Like her damage, like is she competing with like the top of the top damage dealers and like other characters? No, not really. And she practically has like what, 2 to 3 team compositions. That's not really that versatile, but even without that versatility, she's still a really good character. The only downside about Yun Li is that she is a counter character, so you're gonna want to get hit. And like in this game like Honkai Star Rail, where like everything is all about like turns and like moving and all that, you don't want the enemy to go because then that can potentially cost you a wave or a cycle, and that can actually like ruin your run and you can have less cycles and all that. But granted, her payoff of how much damage she does and you know she can kind of solo sustain herself, it's really good. Which on that note, I'm also going to be put Clara in the same tier because these two are literally the same. It's just that one does something that the other one doesn't. You know, you only get some like quality of life things, but you know, like they're both the same. They're both counter characters, they're both required to get hit. It's just that, you know, Yun Li can be like a lot more explosive, but Clara, she can, you know, she can kind of compete on her own as well. So that's why I'm putting them in the same. Maybe I can move her down to like T0 1.5, but then again, I won't be like comparing the two and be like, oh, Yun Li does good, so therefore Clara's down. No, if Clara can also perform, Clara can perform. So those two are gonna stay there in the same tier. Fu Xuan. Fu Xuan is a character that carries anybody's account at first. She's like the starter character of limited 5 stars. That's what I'd like to see her, because at first she was like T0, best sustain in the game. Like no one could come close to her. She's super good. because of the damage mitigation, the shared increased max HP, the shared damage, crit rate, literally her being unkillable because, you know, she can't die with the generation and all that. But as time has progressed, we've been able to see her downfalls, her downsides, her catch-22s. One-shot attacks are not good because, you know, you're going to be running out of her stacks so she can get revived. And, you know, the more one-shots, like the bug, for example, the bug should be good with her because they're weak to quantum. But the fact that they deal so much dodge and so much one-shots and all that, she just dies, honestly. The crit rate value, she's not gonna be, you know, that needed, but unfortunately the one thing which is just like slowing down your fate, your doom, which is, you know, you're still gonna die, you're still going to get hit, you're still going to take damage. It's the one thing that kind of will be like degrading Fu Xuan's value, which is something that has begun to happen. Because really, she doesn't even serve the purpose of preservation, which is block incoming damage. You're still taking damage, you're just taking less. And for that reason, and for the way that they've been like doing these enemies and all that, we just gotta be real. And Fu Xuan, in my eyes, she is a T1 character. Next up, our grandpa guy that got isekai or something like that. I don't know much of Impact Third Lord. He's not that good. He's not that good, but there are moments where he can shine, honestly. Like the whole like slowing down and the speed like reduction and all that is really good for, like, you know, sustaining and all that. But even with that, some enemies, like for example current enemies, they're just becoming ridiculously too fast, like to the point that even with slowing them down and the imprisonment and all that, those enemies will be back in like the next turn or something like that. So unfortunately, that's something else that is going to be suffering in the future, where enemies are just going to be faster and faster and faster and faster. And for the amount that he can like slow down with his kit, it still won't be enough to actually slow down the enemies to the point where you'll get more turns. And same thing for like the content, where it's all about doing as much as you can, where even if you were to delay the enemies but you're not gonna advance forward, or like your allies are not gonna go, you're still gonna be consuming the same amount of cycles, so it doesn't really matter. Sometimes you might make the cycles run out even faster. He does provide some damage bonuses. For example, him with Acheron are actually surprisingly really good. Honestly, I love playing well with Acheron. His kit as a whole is kind of unfortunate, especially because you also have to rely on effect hit rate, you know, because sometimes the enemies will just resist, and some of his attack, or you know, his skill is bounce, and me personally, I don't like bounce because it can be a bit inconsistent. I wanted to, like, you know, put him higher, but even with all that, he's just gotta be down here at T3, maybe T2. But again, like, enemies are gonna get even faster and faster, that his value is gonna also diminish. Now, someone that hasn't been, you know, struck like that when it comes to like multiple enemies and stuff like that is a character that the majority of players have, and that's gonna be Dr. Ratio, my absolute favorite Hoyo character by far, or, you know, male character and all that. I've talked about him in other videos, but honestly, this character is a freaking beast. This character, insane damage. He has so many team compositions. I see people that say, oh yeah, his best team in slot has a Ting Young, his best team has a Pela, his best team has this and that. In my opinion, Dr. Ratio doesn't have a best team or best in slot because he's just so freaking versatile. You can play him with a Huohuo, you can play it with a Venturine, Rura Mei, you can play with a Robin, a Topaz, a March, you can play him with a freaking Sparkle, you can play him with a Mose, which it's surprisingly really good, you can play with a Gallagher, you can play with a Fu Xuan, you can play with literally any character in here, and he's still gonna be performing so freaking well. Granted, he prefers like allies that, you know, apply debuffs like Black Swan, Kafka, Sampo, Guanaifeng, and all those characters. But even without that, like without those characters, like with a Marsh, for example, he's still gonna be performing so good. Are the enemies getting like tankier and he's dealing like less, quote unquote, less damage, or like, you know, degrading less HP? Sure. But again, he has follow-ups and so many different like team compositions that can kind of still keep him up to date. It's so worth to build your Ratio. And for that, solely because of his versatility, this character, and being so good and so destructive, I feel like he deserves to be in T0.5. Even though he's not dealing the same amount of damage as an Acheron, the fact that, you know, he's just so versatile and not restrictive at all. Endless possibilities. So like, beat the content, honestly. Also, for the sake of the lols, let's put the males together right here. You know what I'm saying? Sample real quick. He's very like, he's a dot character, and he provides like really good dot damage, like with his dot vulnerability, and like, you know, his dots on his own, because his wind shear is actually really good. That's about it he can provide. Anything outside from that is a bit of a letdown, honestly. So I would put him in T3, but honestly, I can't really say I can put him in T3. I'm gonna put him in T4, because even though he's really good on like dots, some of those dots would also go down, because, you know, that's just been natural with dots, where like they've just been like falling off and they just been becoming irrelevant. Even with all that, like, his value with dot vulnerability can literally just be replaced by a Kafka Eidolon. Even without Eidolons, like, you know, he doesn't really provide that much on the table, so I'm gonna just put him there at T4. I'm sorry, y'all. Like, at the very least, Sampo, like, you know, he a goofy little guy, and, you know, he be on like trash bins and stuff like that. At least he's still alive and not found on a ditch like Silverwolf. Nah, jokes aside, Silverwolf is still a really good character. She was like at the top of the top when she first came out, because she was doing something that literally no one could do, which was implant weaknesses and just beat the game. Like, she was literally the GGI1 character, like, you know, like with Locha back then and all that. But the fact that a couple of characters, or at least the recent characters, have been able to just do the exact same thing that Silverwolf provides, and sometimes even an AoE. For example, Acheron can do that. Firefly can implant her own weakness, and then she can also shred. Fei Xiao, Shui Yi probably might be even more in the future, like in 3.0 and all that. So, you know, the one thing that kind of makes her stand out, it's irrelevant now. Ooh, I just remember, especially with Fugua's released, like Tingyun 2. Like, Tingyun 2 is gonna allow everybody. Ooh, oh shoot, so was just dead. But even with that, like the whole implanting and like toughness reduction and all that, her debuffs and the amount of like debuffs she provides is still really good. Like, for example, she's really good with ratio, slowing down, attack reduction. It's random, but it's still there. And then, you know, her defense shred is actually really huge. And just for that, I'm gonna put her at T1.5, which on that note, we're gonna be putting her competitor, Pela, we're gonna be putting her up here at T1, honestly, because she does what Silverwolf does with her defense shred, but AoE. Day one character, given for free, even without Eidolons, because Pela is one of those characters that doesn't really need Eidolons. Like, even at E0, she can like go crazy. Like her Eidolons are very like personal, like with Silverwolf as well. Like, Silverwolf's Eidolons are personal. Pela, same way. Her AoE defense shred is really disgusting. Honestly, she can literally be placed with anybody. The one thing that's holding her back from being up here in S tier and stuff like that is just the fact that she's so squishy. Anything can kill this chick, bro. Like, it's really easy to get her ultimate even without energy robe. Really easy to build, but it's just the fact that she's so squishy. She just can get one-shotted by like anything. If she gets two enemies that attack her at the same time, hey man, she dead. Because if she were a little bit squishy, again, up here, but she cannot take a single hit. Tingyun version 1. Super good unit. She provides attack buffs, she provides overall buffs, she's a battery, she's very simple to build, just give her attack. The downside is that, you know, just like with Pela, she is kind of squishy, and at the same time, why is she always getting hit? I just don't understand. Like, but yeah, very comfortable character, very versatile character. She has been getting less use because of, like, you know, characters like where they don't really need ultimates. They just need, like, you know, something to proc their ultimates, and, you know, the energy isn't there. But Tingyun, really good character. You know, she gets with Eidolons, she provides even more energy. She can get speed, so she can be very fast. The other downside is that her buffs last for the character's turns, like the allies like turns. So for example, if you skill on a Sealy, and Sealy is an extremely fast character, and if Sealy goes like a bunch of times, she's gonna like eat up Tingyun's skill. Same thing with Firefly, and with characters that advance for a lot, like Jing Liu, Firefly, Sealy, March, characters that advance forward, they're gonna be consuming Ting Yun's like attack buff, and she might in some cases become skill point negative because of that. But granted, it can be countered with speed, but sometimes even speed alone won't be even that much, because my Ting Yun can reach 200 speed. My Sealy only reaches like up to like 170 speed, and sometimes my Sealy is just consuming Ting Yun's benediction buff. So some things that can be kind of a bit unfortunate, but hey man, that's my Fox girl right there, you know what I'm saying? Blade, the one character that truly wants to get hit. I'm gonna be real with y'all. Blade is solid. It's just that he just requires getting hit, so he kind of functions like a counter character. And you can say, yeah, his follow-ups, and he does have some synergies with other characters like Jing Liu, Lynx, and Jade. Even then, that's not gonna take him and actually deal enough damage to actually clear the content. And on top of that, he's kind of a difficult character to like synergize, because you know he's an HP character who for some reason doesn't get that much benefits from like other buffs. So it's kind of strange to hyper carry him. And he can perform and all that, you know, like he can be doing his 400k, 500k and all that. But hey man, that's only possible if you're, you know, sacrificing. Like for example, the whole like, hey man, if you don't have a E6, S5, Ruan Main, Robin, Bronya, Sparkle and all that, hey man, your Blade ain't going anywhere. Let's be real. He does have some synergies and he's quite skill point neutral. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna put him in B tier because I also remember that he can like solo sustain. He can solo sustain himself. So like, you know, having like sustain isn't that big of a deal with Blade. It's just the damage, honestly. But he can be comfy. Too comfy sometimes, you know, like the whole meme, I will dispatch you in 8 cycles. And since we're talking about version 1 characters, let me go ahead and take let me discuss someone. Kafka. 1.5, honestly, like that's also my girl. That's my Kafka right there. But same thing, gods have just been being irrelevant. Even with the whole downscale, if we look at her kit, the fact that she's like a dot enabler just is the one thing that's just holding her from not being like down here or here. Honestly, almost every dot character, if they want to be like shining and want to be like there like in everyone's like team comps and all that stuff, you're gonna have to have a Kafka. She does some good damage, she does some good dot damage, she does follow-ups, so she has some versatility. For example, I will say my latest video, the Apocalyptic Shadow one, I saw someone that they mentioned that they cleared it with Jade and Serval, and what I did is that instead of Serval, I just took Kafka and I was able to beat Apocalyptic Shadow level, the 4th one. And I was like, oh shoot, that's actually really nice. But on her own kit, she's really good, really solid dot enabler. It's just that the game hasn't been treating her that well, so I'm gonna just be putting her right there at T 1.5. Since we talked about Kafka and all that, I'm gonna be talking about Black Swan, because these two, oh my goodness, these two are like, but anyways, Black Swan, she is a dot character. Let's say you were to take her off dots, Black Swan can still perform. I personally believe she's like one of the best like characters for Acheron. She's actually one of the best characters for Ratio. She's really good with her defense shred. She got her epiphany thing, the whole like damage bonus and all that. She's a bit difficult to get used to at first, but once you like get used to her, she's actually really good, very versatile. It's just that, granted, same thing about the game, enemies have been getting very tanky. HP inflation and all that is real, honestly. Her Arcana, like, is it harder to stack without a Kafka? Yeah, true. Even with so, you're still gonna be getting enough stacks to get the dots to ignore the defense, because she has a thing where like if you stack enough Arcana, the blast will ignore defense and stuff like that. It's still possible to do it. So for that reason, I think she can go at T1, honestly, because she's like very versatile. She's just not super cracked like characters like from S tier above, but she can perform in like other places and scenarios. Bronya, next one, honestly, Bronya, I'm just gonna put her here. She's still really good. She's still one of the best supports in the game. It's just her skill point consumption is the one thing that's holding her back, because even with the humongous skill damage bonus and the ultimate and her talent, which, you know, grants even more damage bonus, the fact that you have to like, you know, manage your skill points, it's just so unfortunate, really. I really wanted to overlook the fact that she's skill point negative, but it's just so like, that's the one thing that makes Bronya, you know. That's how she can be a harmony character, by just skilling, you know. If she didn't have that big of an issue with skill point consumption and all that, then she would honestly be like up here. But the fact that she has all that, I'm sorry, but she's a T1.5. Like, it can be faced with like her light cone and like eidolons, like her E1 and E6, like, you know, the buff lasting even longer, so you can kind of manage her skill point management. But even with E1, it's still an RNG, and even with all that, you're still going to be burning through skill points, and even that has a cooldown, just like Luocha. So now Bronia's girlfriend, Seely, you know, like in a perfect world, Seely could be up here, maybe up here, maybe up here. Game hasn't been treating her too well. She's a speed demon, honestly, and speed demons in paper, they're really good. For example, with like Su Shang, she can be like, you know, she can do chip damage, but the difference is that Seely actually has a higher multiplier, so she'll be doing much more damage. But the game hasn't been treating her too well, because Seely is like a character that wants to clean up mobs so she can proc resurgence and deal damage. And then on top of that, she's a perfect stat character where if you don't have the perfect stats, like you don't have to, like I said, 500 crit damage, 120 crit rate, 200 speed and all that, she is not going to be performing. And that's the other thing about Jing-Yuan that I forgot to mention. He's also like a perfect stat character. Same thing with Seely. Even with all that, with like even the best supports, even then enemies are just getting too tanky, where she's not even like killing the enemies. That's like her whole gimmick, killing enemies quick, killing enemies to get the buff so you can move on to another character. Even with that, it's still impossible. It's just not good. So for that, I'm gonna be moving Seely to T3. Maybe the lowest she might go like will be here, or probably in C tier. But yeah, man, honestly, they're doing her so dirty. Now, someone that isn't gonna be getting dirty, Fei Xiao. Holy, that's another character that I'm like, holy Christ, man. I heard that she be getting buff and nerf. You know how like some things they be talking about, oh, like the beta, like how she be getting like characters get buff, nerf and all that. I was like, hey man, if this character got nerf, if this character got buff, it don't matter. The fact that supposedly she got nerf, the fact that she's this good even in her nerf phase, I don't think we're ready to get her in her buff, like in her normal way, like without the nerf. This is another brute force character, but she's also so versatile. She's literally Acheron, but versatile. Acheron, like, you know, she wants her light cone, she wants nihility, she wants stats, she wants this to shine. Fei Xiao, she doesn't need that. You can be playing E0, S0 with no follow-up characters, and she's still gonna be demolishing the enemies. All of the weaknesses are like, oh yeah, like if they're not wins, she can't break. Hey man, her ultimate goes through. Oh, like she won't be getting that many stacks, but follow-up characters, all right. Like she gets her own ways of dealing follow-ups, and follow-ups is a nice way to recharge her ultimate. She can use her ultimate twice, so you can go even crazier with damage. Fei Xiao is just a destructive character. It's just insane. And she's a Hun character. Hun characters are usually not that good. You know, they're not gonna be like shining any day soon. Fei Xiao though? Jesus Christ, they actually went crazy with this character. Now that I mentioned, you know, Acheron when I was talking about Fei Xiao, I just thought about someone that's like actually best in slot for Acheron, and that is Zhao Shi or Zhao Shi, the Fox guy. This character is so disappointing, honestly. The fact that he's a Acheron like support and that's it, there's nothing to it, is so unfortunate, because even if he provides like so many good things for Acheron, the fact that even those like factors have limitations, like for example the amount of Ashen Rose he can get from his ultimate, the buffs, like the overall buffs isn't really that crazy on their own. Like AoE scenarios is crazy, but like on a single target, even with that, it's not that crazy. Like it does buff Acheron, but that's because all of that is just catered to her. The moment you take Zhao Shi and you move him to like any other team, he's not providing anything. Yeah, sure, you can have that 35% vulnerability and like just be there the whole time technically, but it is just as big as a Ruan Mei skill. So like honestly, you're not really gonna be getting that much of a bonus. The ultimate vulnerability, like, you know, there's a couple of characters that can put some work on it, like Argenti, Jade and all that, but it's just so niche that literally 90%, I'm just looking at this cast and I'm like, most of these characters don't really care about what Zhao Shi provides, honestly. Because like with Acheron, he's like right there, T0.5. I don't think he's T0. He's like T0.5. You take him out of there, he would just be going like maybe like here, honestly. He's just not that good, honestly. But I see people say that he's good with dots, but honestly, even with dots, because you know, fire is not really that good with dots, it's not that explosive. You're better off putting a Asta or a Ruame. I might be sounding like I'm downplaying Zhao Shi, but it's just the fact that he's literally just an Acheron support, and if you don't have an Acheron, there's just no reason to go for him, honestly. If that's not what you think, you're free to just play the game how you like. This is just my opinions and the way I see, like the way I see things. And Zhao Shi, honestly, kind of a letdown. So-called healer. I'm gonna make this one quick. I'm gonna put Donghan and Jingliu on the same tier. Like, I have both of them, and I'm a Jingliu simp as well. Hey man, Jingliu, woohoo! They're both really good. It's just that, you know, Donghan, he takes a lot of skill points, and Jingliu, she also be like consuming the HP of everybody. Some people might say, oh yeah, like it's not that big of a factor, but you're still killing your team. Like, literally the only way for Jingliu to function, to get rid of the worry that your enemies or your teammates are dying, is if you get a Ho-Ho. Again, if a character needs another character to work fine and all that, then that's not good in the first place, or that character's not good in the first place. But Jingliu is really good. It's just, again, HP inflation has been damaging these characters, has been making them less relevant. And last but not least, Firefly. Honestly, I don't think we gotta talk that much about Firefly. We all know Firefly is like the best character, or one of the best characters in the game. Every single issue you can think of Firefly, she will find a way to get through it. The enemy, oh, they can nerf super break characters by just putting the toughness for, or like they block the toughness. Hey man, Firefly's just gonna be like breaking so quick that by the time they do that, they're gonna be broken. She needs a lot of energy. Hey man, she gets energy. She's solo sustained. She can do this and this and that. Like, you can think of any weakness or like downfall for Firefly, and she just stomps on it. Like, she's literally plot armor, insane damage. Really simple to play, really good to play. Now, I left Fugue on the side because, again, by the time I'm recording this video, she hasn't released yet. I'm still waiting for her to come out. But my guess is that when she does come out, because, you know, she's like a super break character, she does what Silverwolf does, but just to like anybody, any weakness, it doesn't matter what. I know it's like some people are disappointed. I'm also a little bit disappointed about Fugue in some aspects, but overall I'm just going for it because, you know, Ting is my girl. If I were to guess, I'd say the highest T0.5, or the lowest she might go in T1.5, because, you know, some people say, oh yeah, Romney replacement, Harmony replacement. I can't see how you can replace one or the other. It's either you go with like with Ruame or Harmony. You can either go Ruame so like the ally can break even easier, or you can go with Harmonies because of the double super break. Dear Lord, that was something I was not expecting. But on her own and her own kit, I'm gonna say she's gonna be either T0.5 or T1.5, like in between here. T1.5, 0.5, my bad, 1 or 1.5. But in my opinion, personal opinion, I'm gonna say T1, and also because they can be together. And so there you have it, the 2024 Honkai Star Rail tier list. If you're looking at the screenshot right now, this is a fake tier list, haha. So if you want to see the entire tier list, you're gonna have to check the video. But if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. I did a whole playlist talking about Star Rail and stuff like that, so if you got some time to grind all that, hey yo, make sure to check that playlist, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.